Hey everybody, welcome back to the Vince Salerno podcast. This is episode 82. As always, I'm your host, Vince Salerno. We got some stuff to talk about today, per usual. I am testing out some new audio equipment today, so if things sound a little off or you hear some pops and I don't take them out in post, that's why. So, try to work with me on that. A lot came out in the news these past couple of days that I wanted to talk about. Not too much. Honestly, I wanted to get into some evergreen stuff. An article came out from that parkplace.com about a rumor regarding Marvel that may indicate the direction of the entirety of Disney, which I think is very interesting. So we'll get into that. Also, on the note of evergreen, there was a video I watched featuring Tim Pool from Tenet Media that I wanted to do a little reaction to and talk about. It's just an interesting discussion of film and culture. But let's get into some of the bits of news that did interest me a little bit. First off, James Gunn's Superman movie has wrapped filming. I shouldn't call it James Gunn's Superman movie because it's just called Superman, which is going to get a little confusing when you consider Christopher Reeves is also called Superman, or maybe Superman the movie. Maybe that's the distinction. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, so let's pull up this Instagram post here. So he posted this, 3 days ago. It's a picture of David Corenswet himself, Peter Safran, Nicholas Hoult. I don't recognize anyone else in the photo, but they're in some remote snowy area. There's a log cabin behind them, somewhere in Norway. And the caption reads, "And that's a wrap. God bless our cast and crew whose commitment, creativity, and hard work have brought this project to life. I set out to make a movie about a good man in a world that isn't always so much. And the goodness and kindness and love I've encountered on a daily basis on set has inspired me and and thrust me forward when I felt too spent to move on my own. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. It has been an honor. The destination has been Superman, but the journey has been the toil and the laughter and the emotions and ideas and magic we've shared together on set. And for that, I am forever grateful." Nice sentiment. I'm excited about this movie. I've been excited about this movie and I remain excited about it. I think I never talked about this, but seeing those much better pictures of David Corenswet's Superman in the suit really at least did a lot for me to see that the costume that they're putting him in is not, as some people were saying, it looks like the Guardians uniforms from Guardians 3. It doesn't look very heroic, doesn't look like a Superman outfit. And it was admittedly, like in hindsight, seeing how the costume is supposed to look, it was not a great reveal for that costume. But I love how the costume looks in motion and from set videos and set photos that we've seen. I think it looks great, even with the added lines and texturizing of the suit, which I don't think is always necessary, but it does kind of break it apart, I guess. I like it. I still really like it. I think I like it even more seeing it in set photos than I did seeing it in that, admittedly now, questionable initial photo. But it's funny, as Superman wraps filming, another movie, I believe 3 days ago as well, has just begun filming, and that is Fantastic Four First Steps. which I'm still not sure I like that title. I think the Fantastic Four was a perfect title. Kind of a definitive statement on like this is the Fantastic Four under Marvel Studios, under Marvel Entertainment, however you want to put it. But look, maybe the title will be a little more fitting when we see it in the theaters, and it'll make sense. Um, it already makes sense with the space race stuff, but I just don't think the subtitle was necessary. But the film has started production. We got some set photos of a town, like a 1960s style town that they're building. Some speculating it's the Baxter Building or the Future Foundation. I don't know too much about the Future Foundation and all that. I'm not well versed in comic book lore, and maybe someday I'll get into it. I've always loved the Fantastic Four. They're honestly one of my favorite superhero teams and just favorite superheroes growing up. I've always loved Mr. Fantastic as a character, just, the smartest man alive, elastic abilities. I still think Pedro Pascal is not a great choice to play Mr. Fantastic. But then again, I think we really lucked out in the early 2000s with Ian Grufford. I don't think we're ever going to get a better Mr. Fantastic than Ian Grufford. So I guess I can make peace with that. Pedro Pascal is Mr. Fantastic, and I will give him a chance to prove me wrong that he is not a good Mr. Fantastic, but I have yet to be convinced. So maybe seeing him in costume, hopefully with a shaved mustache and all that. We will see what happens. But there's not much to go off of with the Fantastic Four. Obviously, we got a lot of information at Comic-Con, but as far as seeing the characters and their costumes and all that, all we have to go off of is that one Valentine's Day concept art piece, which probably isn't the best indication of how they're going to look. At least I hope not, because I just don't want to see Pedro Pascal with the mustache and the beard and all that. He needs to be clean shaved. I know a lot of people agree with that, and that's how I feel. So yeah, as Superman wraps, Fantastic Four starts filming. Comic book movies are still with us, and for those of us who are optimistic about those things, we're eating well. As far as whether these movies will be actually good, we'll see. I am one of those people who remains optimistic until I have a reason not to be. I don't like to be assuming the worst or being negative about certain things. And I'm not calling out anybody who is negative or has reason to be concerned out of the gate. You feel how you want to feel, but I've seen things that make me concerned about Fantastic Four specifically, but I also see things that make me excited. One of those things being Pedro Pascal's casting, other things just being the 1960s setting, and I think that's a really good move for this new franchise. I'm also a big fan of everybody else in the cast. I think they nailed it with Vanessa Kirby, Invisible Woman, which I think is like the second most important casting you have to nail. Joseph Quinn is Johnny Storm. Evan Moss-Backrack as the Thing. I haven't seen much of Evan Moss-Backrack. I believe he used to play, I forget his character's name, but I believe he was a character in The Punisher, and he was great in The Punisher, if that was him. And of course, Joseph Quinn, most people know him from Stranger Things, and I think he was in that new Quiet Place prequel film, and a lot of people have said that he's, very well-rounded actor. So I remain optimistic, cautiously optimistic about Fantastic Four and Superman as well. So, but I'm excited at the same time. So giddy up. Let's go. All right. What else do we got to talk about today? So let's get into this article. This is from thatparkplace.com. They are honestly, they are like one of the best news aggregators, pop culture podcasts, whatever you want to call them, um, deciphering the news and all that. They do a great job at getting scoops, and they have insiders and all that. My Moana episode that I did a couple months ago, I got a lot of my information from them because they do such a great job at covering everything. And I'm going to do a follow-up on the Moana 2 episode because there is more information that I personally have found out, and more information linked to Dwayne Johnson specifically, which I think is really fascinating. And that is based on a report that comes from that Park Place, and specifically WDW Pro. So again, you guys have to follow these guys. They are the best when it comes to rumors, scoops, and deciphering news and pop culture. So this is the article. It's a rumor. Marvel Studios cleaned house and fired activist producers. Published on August 2nd, 2024 by John F. Trent. Okay, so I will kind of breeze through the article here. A new rumor claims that Marvel Studios cleaned house and fired all activist producers. The latest rumor came from Film Threat founder Chris Gore during an appearance on the Critical Drinkers YouTube channel, and I did see this video as well. Gore stated, I do know people who work at Marvel. They have cleaned house. They quietly, months ago, fired all the producers who could be labeled as activists. He continued, unlike Lucasfilm is lost. They're lost. They are doubling down on all of the nonsense. You will never get anything good out of Lucasfilm and Star Wars. That's it. And I frankly tend to agree with that. As long as Kathleen Kennedy is still in charge of Lucasfilm, I would just be cautiously optimistic and always assume the worst. Then again, I thought there were a lot of high points to one of the recent shows, Ahsoka. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the case for season 2 and everything else going forward. And if the Acolyte is anything to go off of, things are just getting worse and worse and worse. In contrast, he said, Kevin Feige recognizes, basically he said that we tried it didn't work. He's talking about phase 4. It didn't work. No Kang, none of these side characters that don't have the legacy of classic characters. If Deadpool and Wolverine proves anything, you've heard the phrase, male and pale is stale. That was spoken aloud across the studios. But if you look at the box office this year, I would say male and pale is money. Gore also noted, additionally, they fired people that don't know the comics. But it's going to be a sea change that will take years. Years. That's why they are announcing this now. We know we screwed up and failed. But look at what's coming. So we're going to get 2 bad movies. And I think he's referring to Thunderbolts and Captain America Brave New World. 2 bad TV shows in the form of, I believe, Agatha All Along and maybe Ironheart. I don't know what that second show that he was referring to is. Hopefully he's not talking about Daredevil because I have high hopes for Daredevil. And maybe a good Fantastic Four film. And of course, he was at Comic-Con. He said that he has every reason to believe that the Fantastic Four has the potential to be good. It's not necessarily a shoo-in for critical financial success like Deadpool and Wolverine was, but it was the most promising thing he saw at Comic-Con, and I tend to agree with him. The article points out that there are still activist producers, as far as we know, still at the studio. Nate Moore specifically, Jack Schaefer, who did WandaVision, is the showrunner behind Agatha All Along, which they they believe it could be an indication that this is not true of a rumor, that it couldn't be the whole truth. Keep in mind, though, Jack Schaefer has been developing and shooting this Agatha Harkness show since, gosh, when did they announce it? 2021, 2022. So just because she's doing this show and it's coming out, it's been done for months. So I think after this, if she doesn't truly know the comics, then she's probably out alongside the showrunners of She-Hulk, I would assume, because She-Hulk was embarrassingly bad for Marvel. But I think this rumor is actually an indication of where Disney as a whole is going, not just Marvel, because I believe there was a report maybe a couple weeks ago or a week ago, we found out that Disney laid off quite a few employees from ABC and National Geographic. And now we're getting reports that people from Marvel have been laid off. And we've also gotten reports that people from Pixar have been laid off, which I believe I put out a tweet saying, I don't rejoice in anyone getting fired or laid off or losing their jobs. But if it's the woke activists that have been destroying these studios and these brands beyond repair, then good riddance. I'm sure you'll find work easily elsewhere, especially if you're diversity hires, because you're in California, and California is all about that. But I think this is a sign that things are changing. I've been saying this for years now. The pendulum is swinging back to the normal neutral center. We had been swinging to the extreme opposite end for years now. I think 2023 or mid 2023 is when we started to feel the upswing. And I think 2024, we're feeling that upswing coming back, and we're getting some traction. I mean, look at the box office. Inside Out 2, highest grossing animated movie of all time, one of the highest grossing movies of the year. And it's not woke. There's not an ounce of wokeness in there. I've had some people kind of nitpick certain things, and they've asked me about those things, and I don't look. It's not a big deal to me. The nitpicks that I've heard. It's Inside Out 2 is a great movie. Deadpool and Wolverine. The film even pokes fun at wokeness, and it's a celebration of these two beloved characters, a celebration of Marvel's Fox era of movies, and a swan song for that era as well. So this, to me, indicates that changes have already been implemented or changes are coming. Maybe there were some things in Inside Out 2 that could be considered woke or controversial, and they took them out. Maybe there were things in Deadpool and Wolverine that could be considered woke and controversial, and they took them out. I actually don't believe that was the case with Deadpool and Wolverine, because that movie openly pokes fun at wokeness and the culture war and all those things, while also just giving a movie that pleases audiences. And this isn't a Disney movie, but last night I just saw Twisters for the first time. Another movie that is devoid of political agendas, devoid of wokeness, devoid of divisiveness, and just great characters, good characters doing good things. I think with Twisters, it's kind of the what I will call the Top Gun Maverick effect. Top Gun Maverick was normal people doing reality-based things, but the movie props them up as almost like superheroes, as being heroic people. And Twisters is very much in that same vein of having characters like Glenn Powell's character, Daisy Edgar Jones, and Anthony Ramos, to be specific, the three leads of the movie. You know, they're storm chasers. They're not superheroes. They're not they're not Jedi or anything like that. They're just normal people, but they have this larger than life quality to them, or we're so invested in their stories, and they are very heroic characters who want the greater good for everybody, even if they all have different ways of going about it. Both Top Gun Maverick and Twisters have that appeal. And again, the fact that they're real people, real characters in real life situations, fighter pilots, storm chasers, it gives you like a sense of like American pride too. That like, wow, this is like real people. This stuff's like actually happening, and people are, I mean, not literally verbatim per se. It's obviously based on real life happenings, real life storm chasers, real life fighter pilots, and all that. But the stories are very human, and the stakes are very believable because it's based in reality. And not to say that superhero movies don't have that appeal, but you root for superheroes and you like superhero movies because these are characters that are, at least they should be, inherently heroic. And we like watching good people be heroic, especially in movies that are based in reality and have this understated sense of like American pride. That has a lot of appeal to your average audience goer. And I think it's why a movie like Twisters is doing so well and will probably get greenlit for a sequel if it hasn't already. So again, I think, as Chris Gore said in his video with the Critical Drinker, and as the article pointed out, this change is going to take years, but I think it's already been in the works for maybe 6 months to a year. So I remain optimistic. I believe the pendulum is still swinging on. We're still on the upside of that pendulum swinging back to normal, but we will see a return to normalcy, hopefully very soon. Not to say that I don't think this stuff of wokeness is ever going to go away completely, but it could. It very well could. I'm not going to assume to predict the future or anything like that, but we could see real change coming very soon. Okay, so next thing I want to do is react and discuss a video I saw on YouTube this past week. It's from Tenet Media. It's a newly established production media entity for particularly for conservative media. And they put out a video with Tim Pool called Daily Wire Movies Suck. So let's watch a little bit of this, bits and pieces, and let's react to what they're saying.
Then you get these conservatives, and not all, because a lot of them, obviously, with what the Daily Wire is doing, there's an effort to push back, though they're trying.
The movies suck. Sorry, they do.
Yeah.
And it's also because, and look, I like Gina Carano very much, but if you frame these movies like Run, Hide, Fight, or Terror on the Prairie as this is our version of the Girl Boss, you're still operating within the paradigm. I mean, so sorry to interrupt, but I used to write for the American Spectator. My first column, quite unorthodox, it was complaining about the new Superman. Are you all aware of what happened to Superman in the last couple of years?
No.
So Superman, obviously Clark Kent, married to Lois Lane, has a son, upstanding father. He gets taken off the book, and he gets replaced. The writers, which was Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason, get replaced by Brian Michael Bendis, the guy who made Miles Morales Spider-Man. And what he does is he sends Superman's teenage son, John Kent, off into space and instantly ages him up. So taking away his development arc. So he becomes an adult. He comes back. Then, in this new 5 Generations initiative, where Batman becomes black, Wonder Woman's bisexual Brazilian, Superman's son becomes gay. He has a pink-haired Asian boyfriend who looks up to Lois Lane, and he goes on school climate strikes, and he fights social injustice. As you can imagine, the book tanked. But what are they saying with that? They are saying that now Superman is no longer defined by his deeds and his relationships. He's defined by his identity characteristics. What identity characteristics do we say are powerful? Well, the writer Tom Taylor said, we have this young bisexual guy being confident in himself. It's so heroic. Right. So you have to be these minority groups to be a hero. So that is indicting the white male population, the reading population, that have been the custodians of these characters and have bought these characters to provide these new conceited writers a career. You are the villains. You are akin to Lex Luthor. And so now, identity characteristics are the defining feature of virtue, and no wonder the audience is dropping it and seeking other things.
I have never seen Run, Hide, Fight, or Terror on the Prairie. I've seen a couple of Daily Wire's movies. I've seen Shut In. I've seen The Hyperions, which is technically a Daily Wire distributed movie, not a Daily Wire movie in through and through. And I have seen a good chunk of Lady Ballers. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't finish it. I really couldn't. It's there are moments that are funny, and I'm just not into crass, crude, like sexual humor. I don't think that stuff is very funny. I think that humor is very lazy, and honestly, I was a little disappointed to see Daily Wire kind of sink to that level. And as far as the girl boss comment, I don't necessarily know. I really want to see Terror on the Prairie. I'm a big fan of Gina Carano, but I don't know if I would consider that movie to be in the girl boss camp. But if they're saying that Daily Wire is operating in the paradigm of feminism, but this is the conservative version of feminism, it's like it's the same. It's like the same issue with not issue, but like with Twisters. Daisy Edgar Jones's character, I believe her name was Kate. She is a strong character, not even just a strong female character, but just a strong character because she has a very human, relatable arc, and you sympathize with her, and you never feel like she talks down to anybody except for Glenn Powell's character because they're in competition. But she's not going around saying like, I'm a woman and this is a male dominated space and you're all sexist. None of that's in that movie. She is just a spoilers for Twisters if you haven't seen it, by the way. She is a woman who has lost people in this fight against Twisters, and she carries this wound with her, and her whole arc is facing her fears, and being able to overcome her fear of these Twisters in order to stop these Twisters to save people. It's a very human, very emotional arc for her, and it's not because she's like female and she's a badass and she can do anything a man can. It's just that she is a character, and as they said in the video, like these characters that we look up to are defined by their deeds, their actions, not necessarily by their status, their identity, politics. So, for lack of a better term. The fact that Superman's Asian pink-haired boyfriend, or Superboy's pink-haired Asian boyfriend, is a climate-fighting activist who's openly gay or bisexual or whatever, and that's heroic because he's living his truth, and that's not heroic. Never has been, never will be. Let's continue.
I don't understand why there wasn't universal acclaim across the board from every conservative for Captain America. To stress one more time, a guy, the hero of the story, is trying to join the army, and he can't because he's got, flat feet, small, and disorders, and he's lying to try and join the army. He jumps on the grenade, becomes Captain America fighting Nazis. We hear a lot of complaints about it, but that's a story that, just one real quick point, to these people who naysay culture and they say, grow up. We tell stories of superheroes, just like you said, the stories of the gods and fighting the gods and all these things were what we use to instill values in our next generation.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one of the things that drives me crazy about the Daily Wire in particular is that they've got all of these resources and they're producing not great things because they're thinking about the left, right? They're thinking consciously about the left, and that's not how conservatives tell great stories. That's not how Tolkien told Lord of the Rings, right?
I like that. That's a great point. I feel like the Daily Wire and other conservative outlets who want to come off as more centered or get back to like a normal entertainment culture, they're doing this to like specifically counteract the left. And I don't think that is what I used to actually think that's what we needed to do, but I don't think that's what we need to do to tell good stories. I don't think that's what people want. Just because something is not liberal in its politics doesn't mean we necessarily want to see everything ultra conservative in its politics when it comes to entertainment. Entertainment should at least try to be, in most cases, politically neutral. Now, there is, like, if you're like watching a political thriller or a documentary or something where there is a inherent political nature to the story, of course there is room for that. I'm not saying we shouldn't be telling political stories in entertainment at all. But to insert politics in entertainment that should be enjoyable for all audiences is particularly sinister, in my opinion, whether that's from the conservative front or the liberal front. And I guess I shouldn't use the word sinister, because conservative values are inherently better than liberal values, of course. But to have this conservative chip on your shoulder with everything you're doing, which at least what Tim Pool and his team are implying, that the Daily Wire has that chip on their shoulder with every project. Definitely seems that way. Mr. Burcham, their animated show specifically, seems to be, it was marketed as a irreverent South Park, Family Guy style comedy, and it just, I guess, came off as annoying and kind of cringy in the fact that it was just about making fun of liberals, and that those things weren't kind of on the surface, or they weren't handled in a way that Family Guy handles them, or Simpsons handle them, which is actually genuinely clever and funny. And I haven't seen Mr. Burcham, so I'm not going to judge it based entirely on other people's opinions. I'm probably not going to see it because I just don't care enough about seeing that show. It just doesn't really speak to me. But those comments definitely make me want to watch it less. But yeah, Tolkien didn't make Lord of the Rings with a conservative chip on his shoulder. He made it with, he wanted to give England a fantasy of their own. And he infused deep Christian values that are, frankly, universal values into the Lord of the Rings. And yes, there is some very overt Christian imagery, I think, within the Lord of the Rings, but it still is from a point of view that even everybody loves Lord of the Rings. Even people who aren't professed Christians love Lord of the Rings. And those people are probably praising the crap out of Rings of Power, which I haven't seen, but I've been told is not great. I like that too about Captain America, the whole discussion about how his, it's not right to lie, but you can see that he's trying to work against a system that has these rules in place for a reason, but they want the best and the brightest and the fit. But he just has this inherent desire to just want to do good, and he can't. He keeps getting beat down by the establishment, the system that is, and his hard work. It almost gets him in trouble for lying, but his hard work eventually does pay off, and he is given a chance to become Captain America, and his values and his morals are able to propel him to do the greatest good, because he is just so pure and innocent of a character, and has a strong desire to want to do good. And that is the appeal of Captain America. His ideals never change in those movies. He always sticks to his core beliefs and believing in America, believing that which is good, true, and beautiful, and fighting for that. That never changes. And that's why Captain America is one of the most beloved characters, not just in the comics, but in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. great portrayal of Captain America, and that's why Chris Evans' portrayal has is yet to be matched. And I know they're going to recast Captain America, Steve Rogers for the MCU, but we'll see when that happens. And also that's why Sam Wilson's Captain America is not working, because he came from a place of divisiveness. This character was written from a place of divisiveness and fighting the establishment and saying, you won't accept me because you can't accept a black man as Captain America, which nobody has ever said, no one's ever claimed. And if they have claimed that, then that is racist. But no sane person who loves comics and loves Captain America and loves Sam Wilson as a character, as the Falcon, has ever said that a black man can't be Captain America, even that the Falcon can't be Captain America. But when you put a racist, race-colored lens on that character, he immediately becomes unlikable, because it becomes a place of him versus society. And Captain America has always had these just inherent good values of goodness instilled in him, and that's why he is universally beloved, and why Sam Wilson's Captain America, or as I call him, Falcon America, is not receiving that same praise. It has nothing to do with race. I mean, it does, but it has everything to do with how they are using race to try and tell a fascinating story, but that story is coming from a place of divisiveness, not of those same values that make Captain America Captain America.
Barbie tried to be an overtly woke and feminist film and ended up being an accidentally reactionary.
Or Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
They tried to make it to be like they're Nazis and evil, but
everyone was like, "Hey, they're good guys. What are you talking about? Defending humanity from a genocidal communist scourge
that attacked them for no reason."
Yeah, exactly.
But the film's director wanted to make them out to be the Nazis, so he dressed them in that.
He didn't read the book, apparently, did he?
No, he didn't read the book. No. He got someone else to read the book for him, which is insanely lazy. It's not even a thick book, It doesn't take long to read it, and it's a good book as well. But he's a communist, so the Conservatives they need to think about what virtues they want to demonstrate, right? So if you want to demonstrate, insane courage in the face of unbelievable odds in a sort of Lord of the Rings style movie, do that, But don't think how does this reflect on us against the left and things like that. Don't worry about that. Just write something that demonstrates the virtue you're trying to instill into the person watching.
I do think one challenge too, which we didn't get into a whole lot, but has been a big issue, is cultural stagnation. The fact that we're talking about Captain America right now is even kind of funny. Sure, I like the message of the movie, but when was that character made?
It's the Second World War. It all originates from the Second World War.
But what we've been doing right now, we've got Deadpool and Wolverine is coming out in a couple weeks. And it's just regurgitating characters that were made a long time ago.
Logan was meant to have ended Wolverine in 2017. Right? I'm sure, look, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman wanted to make a movie and everyone wants to see it, but I'm not excited for it because it felt that chapter of life was over and that they're constantly recycling it. There was a fourth Matrix film.
Exactly.
Dear Lord. The first one, the first one was great. Second and third were terrible.
I actually enjoyed the fourth Matrix movie, but from a meta perspective.
It was based.
Yeah, it was literally them saying, look, we're trapped in our own franchise. And if you think about it, no, it really was. Because, Neo was the video game creator of the Matrix video game. And you got to see his life where he just gets up, he's in a glass, steel, building, and he's just in a focus group. And you realize, look, where is he going to get inspiration from? He never does anything.
But also, the overall message of the fourth Matrix, do you remember what it was? The society cannot function without a mother and a father.
Yeah. It was very
interesting.
Anti-progressive.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. I was
great.
Well, really?
Which is funny for being made by the Wachowski sisters.
Yeah, but the message was the Matrix itself. The conscious function of the universe in the minds of everyone will collapse unless there is a patriarch and a matriarch.
Yeah, with Trinity and Neo flying all around together at the end. Yeah, but the whole thing I thought was fascinating because what it looked like to me was a look into the Wachowskis' just daily life. It's like, what do? We get up, we go to a coffee shop, we go to a focus meeting, we talk about, the thing that we have already created, but we're constantly getting smaller and smaller and smaller in that thing. Because, this is why George Lucas and the Star Wars prequels have aged so well, because what they did is build outwards. Right? Okay, he told the story poorly. There are lots of criticisms, but at least the world got bigger from him doing that, rather than everything now is smaller and smaller and smaller. So everything feels like there's nothing left to tell in that little universe. And this is why I quite enjoyed the fourth Matrix, not because it was good, but because it was kind of admitting this, being like, yeah, no, we're trapped in this, and we've got nowhere else to go.
Okay, so they go on to talk about more stuff about Captain America and the sort of meta-based message in the Matrix that probably wasn't implied from the Wachowski brothers / sisters. I found this video to be very fascinating because it's a very transparent and honest talk about the culture and conservative culture. And I think it's a statement on how, when we saw things were getting too liberal, we thought we need to make things more conservative. And we've come to realize that doesn't work. We need just things that are entertaining for entertainment's sake, not left or right, and trying to insult the audience. In fact, one movie that I saw recently with my wife that we both were just kind of aghast by the public reaction to was Barbie. And I'm not going to go fully into my thoughts on Barbie. I will give I will do a full review, a full breakdown of what I thought about Barbie, because I think that movie is the movie that broke the culture war and broke the idea of what conservatives can think about when it comes to woke movies, or what we perceive as woke. But I will say this, I didn't find Barbie to be woke at all. There's some, annoying little nods to feminism, liberal feminism, and all that, but they use terms like the patriarchy as a story mechanism to comedically have Ken go on this journey to discover his humanity. Because the movie is essentially about Barbie and Ken on separate journeys trying to discover their humanity and who they are meant to be beyond this brand of beyond this brand and these gender tropes that are inserted upon them upon their creation. And I remember when that movie came out, I was just shocked that so many conservatives had very different opinions about the movie. Michael Knowles loved the movie. Alex Clark loved the movie, called it a satire. Ben Shapiro hated the movie. And so on and so forth. You had different people claiming that the movie was woke and the movie was not woke, and that it was this ultra mega feminist fever dream. And I never got that. We never got that. It always came off to me as satire. And it honestly, the way they kind of poke fun at men, it is hilarious. Particularly enjoyed the Godfather joke because it's true. So that movie really really woke me up to realizing that we need to be able to not just poke fun at ourselves, but being open to nuance. Just because something appears to be woke doesn't necessarily mean that it is. And if we can't laugh at ourselves and look at something with a deeper lens, then our culture is going to have, we are going to have, as they said, this cultural stagnation. Now, I will say one thing they said, I don't necessarily believe that superhero movies, the fact that we're still talking about superhero movies, is a sign of cultural stagnation. There have been superhero movies, superhero content since as far back as the creation of Superman. We've had Superman movies. We've had Batman movies. This stuff's not going away. I think the superhero genre will eventually probably go the way of the Western, and you'll have fewer superhero films that have to try to be better than they are. But I don't believe in superhero fatigue. I don't believe in like, oh, we're just counting down the days till we move on to the next trend. I believe in good stories, and as long as there are good stories told, these genres and subgenres will continue to flourish. But yeah, there is more to entertainment than just winning from a conservative or a liberal perspective. We just have to. This arena needs to be devoid of any political affiliation. It just needs to exist for entertaining the audience, no matter whether you're a liberal or a conservative. And I'm saying this as a conservative. I want to be able to go into a movie theater with a bunch of strangers and laugh, cry, be thrilled, and enjoy something together. That's what I've gotten for the past 3 theatrical experiences I've had with Deadpool, Wolverine, Inside Out 2, and Twisters. That's what we should have. We are getting back. We are getting movies that unite us, where we can put our differences aside and just laugh and have a collective shared experience in the theater. That's what going to the movies is all about. And that's what we need to get back to. This is not about conservatives or liberals winning the culture war. It's about trying to divorce political influence from entertainment and just tell stories about people we want to see on screen. Good morals, good values, appealing characters. That's what we want. That's what we need. And that's the show. Didn't know I'd end on that note, but that's the show today, guys. So thank you for watching or listening. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel where you can check out other episodes of the Vince Salerno podcast, as well as my short films and filmmaking work. Subscribe and follow the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you listen to podcasts. I will probably have Steve Baker's the third part of the Steve Baker Dune discussion out next week. That's probably going to be what comes out next. So be on the lookout for that. Please comment down below, especially with this episode, because we discussed a lot of different things regarding the culture war. Let me know your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts and what you think of the show, what you think about what we're discussing. And sorry, fly flew. There's a fly in the room and it's flying in my face. Comment below. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. All right. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic day. God bless and peace out. That was weird. Okay. God bless and peace out. See you later. Bye.